You're listening to the Chartographers.
Chartographers! It is a music-loving podcast for music-loving people, and guys, this is it. Everyone's been asking for it. Everyone's been waiting for it. One person even recommended that this be our series finale, but I'm like, fuck you, we do whatever we want, because we're the Chartographer. I know, exactly. We're going to keep doing this until I get bored, or can't do the SoundCloud resubscription fee. Either way, guys, here is, the Chartographers. We take music, we are going to rank every album from a particular artist's discography, and this week, we decided to do the ultimate artist. That's right, the group that is frequently cited as less talented than One Direction, but without them, we wouldn't have the Monkees. That's right, guys, the Beatles! Or maybe the Quarrymen. Or Wings?
Silver Beatles?
Or the Traveling Wilburys. I got no others. All right, cool. So the All-Star Band. All right, guys, we're going to be doing it. John, Paul, George, and the other guy. We're going to be going and ranking their entire... And trust me, this is a Herculean task, because there is the argument, and if you look at certain websites and certain critics, there are people that say that literally every single album they've done is a piece of absolute brilliance and can't be contested. And here's the thing. The people we have gathered in this room right now, we do love the Beatles. We love all their songs, we love all their albums, but we're going to be brutally honest here. There are going to be favorites that fall by the wayside, and it's going to be surprising. It is an engaged discussion, but in order to have that discussion, we needed to assemble our own Beatles of basically music thinkers and critics. I, of course, am the sexy John Lennon type. I'm Evan Sadi. I am the host of this podcast. You also might know me as an editor over at Pop Matters. Of course, we are always joined by the fan favorite and the person who makes this thing run, the co-creator of this goddamn thing, Taryn O'Reilly. Taryn!
Hello!
Hi!
Hello.
You're the Paul, right? You're whimsical.
Am
and fun.
I the Paul? I guess, yeah, the co-creative chair. I don't know.
I like it. And of course, for also another fan favorite, while we're talking about it too, a returning guest from us as well. He has the longest running show on CHIRP Radio history, and you can still listen to it. It is! Don't look at me like it's not. Right. It totally is. And he is a wonderful dear friend. You heard him on our December's podcast. Guys, Bobby Evers is back!
Oh, hey guys.
Hey, Bobby!
Am I the George?
I think you're definitely the George, because that leaves our Ringo.
Guys, that's fine. I'm a podcast movie. It's fine.
Guys, this is the person we have left. He is a writer over at ChicagoNow. He, in college, and I know this for a fact, actually had a recurring radio show called Bill's Beatles Bonanza, which gives you an idea of where we're leaning. Guys, it is the one, the only Bill Mayeroff is joining our group.
It is a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Happy. Yeah, right. And now here's the thing. We have the A-Team here, and I'm worried about who the Yoko is going to be. We'll figure that out later. But guys, we're talking about Beatles albums. We have a lot of albums here, and here's the thing. When you look at the Beatles discography, there's actually and this is a rough estimate, 8 billion albums. Because early on, when they were a group, especially in the UK, they were very much more of a singles-minded art group, and therefore the record labels would sometimes just grab an amalgam of singles together and put that in a package. So that's why there's Beatles 65, and Beatles 4, and all these other different goddamn compilations.
Right, yeah, well, their early US discography is completely different from the UK up through, I want to say through, Revolver.
It's like 1967 was the cutoff when it became kind of unilateral. So as such, that being said, we have a lot of albums to get through. We are going by the official core ranking that is on there that basically, as Wikipedia describes, and when the 2009 re-release of all their albums in mono and stereo happened, this is kind of the same list of albums that they had as well.
But I think when they did the re-release in 87 too, this was the same lineup, like the CD box set. Yeah. This was the lineup.
Right. So that being said, let's talk about the ones that we are talking about, and then we're going to get into the qualifiers, because that's a really important category. So we are talking about their pair of 1963 albums, Please Please Me, and With the Beatles. Their 1964 albums, A Hard Day's Night and The Beatles for Sale. Their 1965 set, Help and Rubber Soul. Their 1966 Break for Artistic Whatever, Revolver. Their Hey, We're a Different Band Now, 1967 Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We're also talking about 1968's massive, huge, technically double but also quadruple, depending on if you get it on CD or vinyl album, The White Album, aka The Beatles. 1969's Abbey Road, which was the last thing recorded, and the 1970's Let It Be, the last thing that they released, if you don't count Anthology or any of the other goddamn compilations together, or their greatest album, Beatles 1. clearly. Let's be real. Come on. Now, that being said, that's a very concise list of 11 albums, but there's two that we need to consider. And basically, they're kind of the two soundtracks that technically are canon, but they are canon, but we want to talk about it and see if they qualify. The first one, of course, 1967's Magical Mystery Tour. This is the time when the Beatles, following the success of movies like Help and A Hard Day's Night, they were like, guys, we could direct our own thing, right? I don't know what accent that was, by the way, shoot me. But they basically, they went ahead and they directed their own film for BBC, and it was not well received at all. Like, it was the first time the critics actually got to roast them over the fire and deserve
With good reason.
Yeah, it was just not.
It's not
unwatchable.
Yes,
unlike, of course, the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band film starring the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton as the Beatles.
What? Wait, you mean that wasn't the greatest film in the history of film? Come on.
I would like to watch that, actually. Anyway, so Magical Mystery Tour, the thing is basically the first half of the album is instrumental tracks that the band composed themselves.
Yellow Submarine.
Yeah, that's Yellow Submarine.
No. For Magical Mystery Tour, the first half of that album is basically there's a series of tracks that they had as the soundtrack, and then the back end of that album is nothing but
You said
singles.
instrumentals. That's
Sorry.
why we were correcting you.
Yeah, exactly,
They're very much songs with vocals
and an instrumental.
And instrumentals.
Flying,
Yeah, exactly. So that would and that back half that has a bunch of singles. Not playing any spoilers right now. It's one of the best compilations of singles they ever had in their goddamn life.
Yeah.
So I think, and for that reason alone, and because it was a band-composed thing, I think we could all be in agreement that should be a part of our qualifiers. All right? Fantastic. Great. Now, the other one, the tricky bit of peanut butter here, is Yellow Submarine, which has a very annoying song in it called Yellow Submarine, but we'll get into that. The thing about Yellow Submarine is that it was a soundtrack to an animated film they actually didn't have a lot of involvement in. But
They didn't do the voices.
Yeah, for one.
They didn't write it.
But also, it only has, 4 original songs?
Right,
on
we were talking about this, and there are not that many new releases in it, although it does have really what I think is one of my favorite Beatles songs ever, which is Hey Bulldog. It's the only place you can find it, but it's there are only a few new releases on it, and everything else is just kind of a rehash.
Right. So for that reason, and because so much of the score for it is done by George Martin, aka the fifth Beatle, unless you're talking about Peter Shears, I would say. And Taryn made this argument before about how, even though it's technically part of considered canon, that we don't actually rank it for this podcast. Now, we were talking about this earlier. Bill said that we should do it because that way we have an easy bottom of the list.
We did have a consensus on where it would fall in our own rankings, but that might not necessarily be a reason to include it.
Because listen, I'm telling you right now, for including it, it's at the bottom of the list.
Yes,
I don't think there's. Bobby's smirking at me right now, but I don't. That's just my thoughts. Bobby, where do you stand?
I think it should be on the list and it should be at the bottom.
Taryn?
I mean, okay. If you feel that strongly about it, we can go ahead and
all
just
right.
open
In that
up
case,
with...
guys, I'm not gonna tell you how part 1 of this episode is gonna go, but it's gonna be really interesting. Okay, and guys, we are ranking 13 studio albums together. We got them all right here. And as with the Chartographers, we're going to talk about it. We're going to debate about it. We have great, fascinating opinions. If we get in a tiebreaker 2-against-2 situation, I have a way to resolve that. But I think we'll see how it works out. The thing is that we're also all nice people. We're not total assholes. We're not John Lennon's. Except for Bill. He's the Ringo. He just likes to have fun. He wrote a song about an octopus.
Evan, aren't you the John Lennon?
I know. I'm broody and dark, and everyone disagrees with me.
He does try to let me give him veto power, and I'm like, no, that's not how this works.
That's why I'm the leader of the band. But legit though, we'll run into it. As John Lennon noted, we'll run into that issue. But the thing is, I'm also like, even though I have an idea of what I think number 1 should be, I'm not an actual asshole. I'm willing to hear other arguments, and as you've heard on other previous podcasts too, they can be persuasive. And like, we're not like gonna hold it. We have our beliefs, but if someone has a really good argument, we're gonna acknowledge it too. So we're gonna run this out. We're gonna see how it goes, and I'm gonna start very predictably, guys, with number 13 on our list of ranking the Beatles albums from worst to best. Guys, what is the worst Beatles album? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Yellow Submarine!
You're damn fucking right it is. Let's go into why.
Okay, just briefly touching on the instrumentals, because they make up so much of the album. I think that Pepperland is actually a really fun little ditty, but after that, they get sort of uninteresting. They're great for scoring the film, but they're not really worth listening to on their own very much, in my opinion.
And the thing is, I mean, all you need love is a clear, throwback, clearly, that they kind of, integrate and throw in there. And I would say, All Together Now, which kind of feels like kind of a rehashed version of, a big old sing-along kind of chanty, whatever kind of thing. Only another.
I mean, yeah, even Paul McCartney admits that All Together Now is like not really very much of a song.
Now, there are some people that have argued that Yellow Submarine, the song, is actually the first kids song that ever actually came out, aka the first one that's not like, all right, children, let's learn our ABCs, together and that kind of thing. Like a song that's just catchy and universal and stupid and fun and dumb, but also accessible to everyone.
It is, and it's exactly what I would have expected from Ringo Starr's first credited recording. That song first appeared on Revolver. It was the opening track of Revolver, and it was the first track where Ringo Starr was credited by himself, also along with Lennon and McCartney. But it was the first where Starkey was actually listed, and frankly, it's exactly what I would expect from Ringo, and it's what he did back then. It's what he still does now when he releases things. He releases fun poppy songs that aren't tremendously deep, but you can sing along to them and you can have a good time listening to them. But I mean, that's not the basis for a film, and it's certainly not the basis for an album.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And also, here's the thing. George Martin is a brilliant human being. Yes. He is astonishing. And what he did with the Beatles in conjunction with them was genre boundary pushing as well. His score here, his stuff that's kind of in the style, it makes some interesting turns. It's not stuff I'm going to listen to very often again, but as a Beatles album, it's just kind of,
Yep.
Yes. Bobby, are you in agreement here?
I am in agreement.
I mean, listen, we made this easy for ourselves. So listen, number 13, bottom of the list, worst Beatles album, Yellow Submarine. But now here's the real pickle in the ointment, okay? Now we got the real issue here, which is, guys, we were talking about what is the number 12 album of the ones that they have left. Now, I have my idea on what I think should be after Yellow Submarine, but I'm going to turn the table over to special guest Bobby Evers.
Okay. My opinion is that
Get ready.
While there are a number of really good songs on this album that stand alone, the overall aesthetic of my number 12 pick is that it's very weak, and it doesn't really hold up, and that is why we were talking about it earlier, how it was the other soundtrack film, and that's Magical Mystery Tour. You not feeling it?
No.
You would say that Magical Mystery Tour is a great album.
Yes.
I would.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
Especially once you start including the singles on it. Penny Lane and...
Right, those are great
Right,
singles.
and here's the thing, the thing is that, it is kind of a mishmash. It's basically like an EP and another EP, kind of like an EP and a roundup of singles, like Michael Jackson's History, which the Beatles clearly ripped off because they time traveled to the future. But at the same time, the thing is that, the Fool on the Hill is, fantastic in, Magical Mystery Tour. But then, they just knock out... It's their greatest run of singles that they ever had. And the fact that they're all on one album that's considered canon, guess what? I know it's kind of a cheat because it's just, here's a bunch of singles. I absolutely have to include that. Hello, Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, all of that.
Even Baby You're a Rich Man,
Yeah.
I think is a really fun song. No, I won't let you put this anywhere near this way. We can revisit it in a little bit, but I love this album, and I think it's also... this was one of the albums that probably we listened to the most growing up because it's really psychedelic, of course, but it's goofy and weird. I Am the Walrus is almost a terrifying
Can I
kid's
talk
song
about I Am the Walrus, though, for a little bit?
As a 6-year-old?
Holy shit. I love that song. And that song, what that did production-wise, I remember when I heard it for the first time, and that part where it kind of there's that rising action, and then it just kind of does a smash cut to the orchestra, and it feels like the basis of what sampling became, later on in the day. That song, almost. The production elements of that song are just, even to this day,
stellar.
Are stunning, right.
So I don't know, you go.
Well, yeah. What I was going to say is that I would not put Magical Mystery Tour a whole lot higher than number 12 on the list. I don't know that I would call it number 12. I don't think it's great as an album. That said, it is a great collection of singles, and I think it is I think best defines that sort of psychedelic period of the Beatles. You know, things like Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane, Hello Goodbye.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely better than like Sgt. Pepper. You know, the songs on Magical Mystery Tour are the songs that from that period people really sing along to and remember to this day.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because people point to Sgt. Pepper as the
this is where psychedelic
Beatles started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't agree. It was where they first did it, but Magical Mystery Tour is where it was first kind of recognized by the populace at large and is still recognized. You know, people don't sing along to songs on Sgt. Pepper that much. And maybe Lovely
She's Leaving
Rita.
Home. I sing along all the goddamn time.
Fixing a Hole.
I guess
Fixing Hole's my ringtone.
I just feel like there are a lot of Beatles albums that are perfect from beginning to end, and that one has just enough songs that are weak that I would skip past, that like it just falls a little bit lower for me. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be on the list. I'm just saying if it has to be somewhere, like I love all of their albums, but like I love some more than others.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that even its weaker tracks like Flying, the instrumental, and like Blue Jay Way isn't the best. Maybe Your Mother Should Know. They've done the different versions of that. They've done that better. But I think with the sheer collection of singles there, I don't know how I can justify putting Magical Mystery Tour so low when we have the earlier stuff where it's like 6 out of the 14 tracks are covers, and it's really, you know, on Magical Mystery Tour they're really carving their own sound already at this point. And you know, if we're looking at their early career, they don't quite have their own voice yet. They're doing a lot of classic blues, they're doing a lot of like really early 60s rock and roll, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just there's only like on like the opening 4 albums, there's only a couple of songs that I really go back to a ton.
So what would you put as like number 12 then?
I would put Beatles for Sale.
Oh, this. Okay.
I think the only like truly incredible song that has lasted from Beatles for Sale is 8 Days a Week.
Let me
and
Beatles for Sale.
Other than that, they've even said themselves, like, we recorded this album between tour dates, like on our UK and US tours. We were exhausted. It's like really kind of dark. Like the opening songs, No Reply, is about like, you never called me back, so I'm standing outside of your window and I know you're home.
You used to call me on your cell phone.
Yeah.
Really, Beatles were the original Drake, if you really get down to it.
And for that reason, though, is why I happen to love Beatles for Sale. And
really,
I do. And one of the reasons I love it is because it's where John Lennon
discovered he was
really
dark.
kind of finding that dark voice. I mean, you know, Beatles for Sale. You know, No Reply, I'm a Loser. That dark introspection, especially on I'm a Loser.
He's like working through some shit.
He's really working through some shit there.
Yeah.
And I think it's where you get that first. You know, he wrote a lot of, you know, poppy kind of happy, you know, maybe heartbroken songs in the early days, but like that's the first time where you really got a glimpse of who John Lennon was and like what he is dealing with.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be the first time we got a glimpse of that, but I think that while it's important to notice where that darkness came in, and he did some absolutely incredible things with it later when they started experimenting more, he's not experimenting here. I think he's still trying to find sort of his dark sense of melody. Like, he has his pop sense of melody down already, but he hasn't figured out how to take that darkness and form it into really fascinating, compelling, forward-thinking songs yet. And so, so while I do totally recognize what you're saying, and yes, that is an important thing to note, it just doesn't coalesce like that same feeling does later on other.
And I would actually jump onto that as well, because the thing you also got to keep in mind is that their first 2 albums, Please Please Me and with the Beatles, they were very much kind of here's some original songs and here's a bunch of covers that we have, and then they clearly broke away from that on A Hard Day's Night, you know, kind of sort of a soundtrack, which is like, we're going to do all original songs. And then that's why Beatles for Sale immediately, because there's so many different covers on there. And by the way, Mr. Moonlight sucks.
Yes, it does.
Like,
I agree.
that feels like a regression. Like, it feels like they're kind of like going back on their thing things, and that's why it feels more like an obligation album than any of the other ones that they have there. And so even with Lennon discovering a little bit more of himself, he then expanded and interpolated on that much better much later.
I want to just say just a note about the covers on Beatles for Sale. I do think of, they did a lot of covers clearly throughout their early albums, and on Beatles for Sale I think is where they did their best covers. I honestly think that the cover George Harrison did of Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. They did a couple of Carl Perkins songs on there. They love Perkins. And they clearly love Carl Perkins, but I think one of the best covers they did was Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, and I think George Harrison did it so well, and he always wore that influence on his sleeve.
So that being said, Bill Mayeroff, since we're at our first of what I'm sure is going to be several impasses throughout the course of the evening, Bill, what would you put at number 12?
What would I put at number 12?
Because you're not going to go with Magical Mystery Tour. You're not going to go with.
No, I don't think so. I think that I would probably put Please Please Me at number 12.
No! Oh my God!
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
All right, guys, we're gonna
let's do this.
Into it. All right,
let's do this.
Let me tell you why you're wrong first, and then I want to hear about more about why. All right, so here's the thing about Please Please Me. All right, so their original songs. I mean, really, this and Please Please Me and with the Beatles are two very sonically similar albums. They're two very aesthetically similar albums in terms of just their tones. They really didn't need to start experimenting with different kind of instrumentation until kind of A Hard Day's Night. But then clearly, once Rubber Soul happened, then it turned into a whole different direction. But Please Please Me. Here's one thing about this with the rock and roll covers and everything else like that. You have to remember contextually, Please Please Me came out at a time when rock and roll was still in its nascent stages. You had Elvis, you had Little Richard, you had people that were legitimately rock stars. But the thing, and so you had the Twist. You had Twist and Shout. You had other songs, songs that were popular. But let me tell you something. John Lennon's vocal sneer is something that is just next level. Like, you've heard other versions of Twist and Shout before, but the way that just that raw and animalistic energy that comes out of it is just so fantastic.
So you would say that based on that one song, it should not be number 12.
That and P.S. I Love You. Now, here's the thing. Like, it's one of the things where I feel like with this one, there was a solid amount of pop singles. And listen, I will go ahead and say the pop singles, as good as they are very much of a type, very much kind of a very texturally monochromatic type. But at the same time, there's kind of an energy to this album that I feel on this more than I do on Beatles for Sale.
Definitely Beatles for Sale, and I would almost say with the Beatles too, although I would definitely be willing to concede that. But I feel like, especially on Please Please Me, I feel like you can hear how excited they are to actually be
in the studio,
working on their record.
Yeah.
Like, there's a new, fresh, palpable energy on this record, especially on, the big singles like I Saw Her Standing There, Love Me Do. P.S. I Love You is terrible. It's such
you.
It's so schlocky.
And by the way, if we can stick around for the Happy Hour Mini, so we will talk about the worst Beatles song for that. There will be options, and I would also throw the qualifier in there, maybe not off of the White Album, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
The worst non-Revolution 9 Beatles
song. And I still like it. That's its own thing. Anywho, we'll
That's
continue.
Cute. Okay.
All right, thanks, babe. All right. So that being said, okay, you really put this on here because it just feels.
Yeah, I feel like
amateur.
actually kind of the way Bobby felt about Magical Mystery Tour, about how there are a lot of singles. There are some good singles on it. I Saw Her Standing There is a classic. It's one Paul McCartney still plays to this day.
He's still
Love
alive?
Me Do.
I heard he was dead.
Well,
Wow.
maybe no. You're thinking of Abe Vigoda.
Rest in power, Abe Vigoda.
Right.
Yeah.
And Love Me Do, it was the first song where you had the sound of the Beatles. John Lennon had its harmonica, and it was that the 3-part harmony on there, and all that. But I think everything that's not. Let's see.
You hate
Let me look
Love Me
at the.
I kind of do.
Let me look at the
saving
list.
this album for you.
The fact that it's still everything together still feels because there's that energy of like them sounding like they're in the studio, and also the fact that the mics at the time are so limited that when they hit those vocal breaks as much as they do, there's just that kind of like almost like textural like fuzziness on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a rawness to it.
It's a little
I'm
blown out.
weirdly drawn. This is a weird thing about me. I'm weirdly drawn to debut albums from people when people kind of like they don't have anything else to go on with it. Like it's just like their first chance. Like this might be our only chance kind of thing. It
Right.
always just fascinates and excites me.
Well, it is, and that is one thing, you know, about Please Please Me that is fascinating. That I do, you know, it's not without redeeming qualities. So
Yeah.
once they released that album, you know, people could have written them off after that. I think there was, you know, it was maybe half great things, and the rest of it there was a lot of crap, and so people could have written it off, you know, and said, "Oh, these Beatles, fuck these guys." And
So I'm sorry, but you're saying that there's more crap on Please Please Me than Beatles for Sale?
yeah, I am.
That's fascinating.
Even with Mr. Moonlight,
I mean, but even
with
like,
Honey Don't,
and Kansas City, hey,
every
hey,
little
hey,
thing
hey.
isn't even the greats. Isn't even like peak Beatles.
Or like, I don't want to
It's not.
spoil the party.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like-
I happen to love that song.
Really?
I do. It's
Bill
wow.
spoils a lot of parties.
I
We
do
should
spoil a lot of
clarify
parties.
that. It's an anthem.
It is.
So does Jens
it is-
Lechman.
It's catchy, and again, it fits with kind of what I was saying before about John Lennon being, you know, this very self-deprecating, you know, putting himself out there as like this guy who, you know, kind of hates himself, and I think I don't want to spoil the party gets into that.
Yeah, I'm gonna second Please Please Me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't feel strongly enough about it to fight you on that. So
Oh my god.
Wow.
So
I
we're
would let-
moving on. All right, cool. Because if it was going to be 2
Evan's
versus
really
2,
upset because this is his favorite early album. But
my favorite early album, but that's that's the qualifier. Favorite
Right.
pre Revolver album. But okay, in that case, fine. Because listen, I know we talked about it for a bit, and that's part of the reason why I love doing this because we also come to consensus on certain things. So even though you all are wrong, we're gonna go ahead and throw Please Please. Then again, you got to keep in mind that for me, especially, this is not like a hard loss to have because when especially,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the early albums, I think we can all agree. There is
They're kind of
diff-
equal to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
like there is differentiation between them. I'm going to spoil something for you right now. I'm not necessarily saying we put it next, but I'm not the biggest fan of Help in the world.
Yeah.
Because,
really?
yeah.
I think Help is a very interesting album because it kind of feels, it's like it starts at a real high and then it gets real bad right in the middle. And then so I feel like Help the track, the song, the title track is up there with the best, classic 60s doo-wop love songs that they've written. I think this is like, I love that it's the darkness that Lennon had been exploring on Beatles for Sale, but presented in a really like upbeat way, which always does it for me. Some of my favorite songs
Nice.
ever are like really depressing topics into like a major key rock song.
Please listen to our Robin podcast for more details.
Or our Fleetwood Mac podcast, for example.
Yeah.
But and then it sort of it stays at a high for a minute there. I think that You've Got to Hide Your Love Away is like a really, that's just a classic.
It's a
That's
great
like,
song.
That
That and Ticket to Ride, like these are great
yeah,
songs.
Ticket to Ride. And so it's sort of, for me, it starts out at a high and then steadily goes down and then spikes at Ticket to Ride. And then it's terrible again. And then it slowly gets better up until, like, Tell Me What You See is pretty nice. And then I think I've Just Seen a Face, again, is like one of their classics. Yesterday is on this album. So I feel like I think that Help, again, has enough really incredible tracks, and it's not like it's all original. It's all very much like it's soaked in that class, the Beatles sound that you think of when you think Beatles. Help is what you think of to me, as far as like
it's true.
spanning their whole career.
You know what I think is amazing? I reviewed once a best of compilation for Ringo's Starr because I had no idea about Ringo's solo shit, for a while.
Yeah.
His country affectations, whatever.
It is.
And the thing is that on it there was a DVD that had like all his videos that he did, including You're Young, it's like it's like You're Young, You're 16, and You're Mine, which is a kind of a pasted animated music video with him and Carrie Fisher at a poodle hop.
Jesus.
And then there's another one, It Must Come Easy, which he's just like filmed in his backyard. It's like, oh look, I'm in a frog costume and I got ping pong paddles I'm playing the drums with. Like, it makes no fucking sense. But he does a cover of Act Naturally again on that one. This time singing it with Buck Owens. and it's just not good.
And it's not
Weird.
right.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you look at, I mean, because Ringo's songs on the later albums are actually like really great and like an essential part of the canon. But Ringo's songs on these early albums are like,
At least the ones he sings, yeah.
you had to give a song to Ringo.
And listen, Ringo can sometimes give an affable vocal performance.
He can.
Really can.
Yeah, like,
But
what
they're
was the
always
one-
written by John. Like it's not.
Well,
these
he
aren't
was.
Ringo songs.
Yeah, I mean, he was never allowed to write on the early albums.
Which was the
and
song where he was like, "Come on, George, play it once for me now."
That was Honey Don't.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
Honey Don't.
That one actually I
Taste
kind of
of
like.
honey.
I did like the Ringo song that's in A Hard Day's Night, but
Which one was
No,
Wasn't
there is,
that-
no, there is no Ringo
isn't
on a
a
Hard
Ringo.
Day's
I guess I'm thinking of like Ringo's theme, which
Oh yeah,
would have
yes,
been
on the soundtrack, on the full soundtrack
Yeah.
version of it. Yes.
Yeah. Bobby's talking about versions that don't exist as
Anyways.
No, there's the
reason-
Ringo theme, and I forget what song. It's an instrumental version of a song that plays while he's like wandering, kind of contemplatively
Yeah.
throughout.
So then clearly number 11, then we're putting Let It Be, right?
No, we'll get there.
No.
We're
So
working on this.
the reason that I think that we can justify putting Help as number 11
No.
is just because it
Oh,
is it's Hard Day's Night Part 2. Like they just tried to
Actually-
recreate that magic with that. It's a soundtrack album. It has singles, but it's not an album. It's just some
And I
songs that they had available that were put in that movie. Yesterday was like the biggest song. It made the other members hate Paul McCartney. It was a single, and then they just stuck it on there
It's
because it was their
true.
next album.
It was the first time that he recorded a song completely without them, which
Mm-hmm.
was going to be a huge point of contention at later
It's still the most
at later
covered song
years.
of all time.
And that's I'm sorry, but A Hard Day's Night Part 2 is still better than Beatles for Sale. I hate to harp on it, but like I've named the only things
Yeah.
that really stand out to it for me, and the rest of it's really just very normal 1964 music. And especially when you look at how much it just doesn't have anything on it that really stands out. Even none of them think like 8 Days a Week.
Bill, where
They
do you
think
fall
it was
in the
a
Help debate?
I actually think Help is actually a pretty phenomenal album. And I'm actually curious. What are your thoughts on the song "You Like Me Too Much"? Because you kind of were talking about songs, and you went from like, how it kind of got terrible after Ticket to Ride, and then you sort of mentioned It's Only Love, and you sort
You
of
Like
skipped
Me
over
Too
Like
Much?
Me Too Much, and then went into Tell Me What You See.
I skipped over it because I think it's like perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's
It
a
doesn't-
solidly average
it's
song
not-
from Harrison.
it's
It
not
took a while for Harrison to
A
really.
flaw on the
Yeah.
album, or
inoffensive.
Right.
something that counts toward it. I
Yeah.
think it.
Right.
It's a fun early George
Yes.
Harrison song.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, I Need You earlier on the album is
Yes.
a much better George Harrison
It
track.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
And listen, guys, here's the thing I'm going to say right now, because we've been talking about this for a bit now. I am definitely, trust me, I am aligned with Taryn on the dislike of Beatles for Sale.
I just really think they really were not happy while they were recording it. They were
and it
overworked.
shows. But that being said, I mean, the thing is that, like, I am more than willing to back him on this one here, and if there's a split vote on the other side, it's going to go to us. But unless we hear a really fantastic argument for what should be a number 11, and Bobby, I would like to throw it to you now. What would you throw in if it's not any of these things? You would still throw, and you want, and please, it's already down.
Didn't he say Help?
Oh, he was with Help?
Oh, right.
At this point, I don't have a loyalty. We can put Beatles for Sale. That's fine.
Oh!
Okay.
Snap! Last chance.
I don't think I don't have that. I don't have
Okay.
the huge loyalty. I'm okay with it being there. I
Y'all
honestly,
are wrong.
No. I was honestly worried that it was going to that. I don't know. I had this
What are you
irrational
worried
fear
about?
that it was going to be like number 13 or something.
Yeah.
Because at least in my experience, it's
Listen.
a fairly maligned album, and
I will
happen to
I
really
will throw
like it.
Beatles for Sale on before I throw on Yellow Submarine.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
soundtrack, okay?
and I fully admit, that my tastes in the Beatles range towards the weird. So
Listen, his favorite solo member is Ringo. I'm just saying that right now. Entire career, every album, the country albums, the covers albums, basically the only albums he does these days.
Hey man, Photograph is a wonderful song.
It is a good song.
Also, the No No song about not doing weed.
Well, yeah.
I don't know that song.
That's an amazing song. We'll talk about that later.
It's a wonderful novelty
All right, guys,
thing,
we
yes.
got it here. Let's recap
Let's
real
do
quick.
this.
Number 13, The Worst One, Yellow Submarine. Number 12, Please Me. Number 11, Beatles for Sale. All right, now here's the thing. That's pretty good. I think we've been fairly safe so far with our picks, because I think generally the general consensus with a lot of people is that the first 5 albums in some way or another are just going to be at the lower end of the spectrum, because what they do later in their career is so forward-thinking and revolutionary. And the thing is, we talk about this here in 2016, we forget that what they did was actually legitimately forward-thinking and genuinely revolutionary and rewrote the rules of what pop music could do, because at the time, even though these first 5 albums were very much of a cast, of a type, very shortly thereafter, because they didn't have any other commercial obligations to do, they were like, oh, we have all the money now, we have all the success, the only things they had to do was prove themselves artistically, which is when they went weird. But we're saving that for a little bit. So, Taryn, I'm throwing it to you.
Okay.
It's a heavy responsibility.
You know,
when you throw masterpieces against masterpieces, this happens.
At this point, since I won my Beatles for Sale argument, up next I think we should either be putting Help or With the Beatles. And I know that Help had already been mentioned, so I'm guessing that's gonna go next. But maybe we should talk about With the Beatles.
Bobby,
I don't have strong feelings. Like, seriously, the first, like, 3-ish, 4-ish albums to me run together. They are equally, like, amateurish and, cute. Like, they are Beatlemania. They are Beatlemania. They are Beatlemania.
I mean, they were within a 18-month period.
because
Right.
and let's also
So,
set the
like-
context. So for anyone that's listening, and it's just like, oh, I'm not that familiar with the Beatles. When the Beatles, they were big in the UK. They actually had large hits, and then initially, and I talked about this earlier, Capitol Records, they were the UK complement label to Parlophone, and they basically had first refusal. And when the first couple singles came out that were doing massive success in the UK, they're like, no. And they came out in like these little shitty indie labels here and there. And then finally they did I Want to Hold Your Hand was like the first one. They're like, we'll give this a pass, and it did well. When Beatlemania hit America, especially after the Ed Sullivan performance, they exploded. And how did they explode? They had 5 albums in the top 5 of the Billboard charts at the same time. And that is a feat that no one has ever pulled off since. And as such, the demand for product was fucking huge. Like, it doesn't matter what song you put out, any song. Give us any song. Because they were beloved by kids, but much like One Direction, as mentioned previously, they evolved into real artists.
Stop doing that. Fucking stop doing that.
All right. But at the same time, as such, we need to remember that all these albums came out in quick succession. And part of the reason why they stopped touring and doing any sort of performances whatsoever, so they could focus on spending time in the studio, because they found touring to be a distraction more than anything else.
Also, terrifying.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney was terrified when they would go to a performance and the girls were just like constantly screaming and like rushing the stage. He was legitimately frightened and didn't want to
honestly,
do it anymore.
even though it's technically staged, the footage of A Hard Day's Night, like when they hit that concert part, and it's just a cacophonous rain of screaming that's all the way through. Like, it is just the thing is we talk about there's fans now, kids that go to different concerts and they're just like, oh my god, you're my favorite artist, whatever. And the thing is that but back then that was a relatively new phenomenon. Like, kind of happened with Elvis, it happened with certain people, but never in that mass.
They didn't
arena
know what to
before.
do. They couldn't handle their emotions.
Right, like, legitimately. And now there's fanhoods that are expected because of that. Anyway, that's its own thing. We've been talking there.
So I am fine with Help or With the Beatles.
So, I mean, if we're not leaning one way strongly, I would say With the Beatles, it goes next. Just for, again,
second.
lack of, incredible, long-lasting songs.
Like,
I Won't
Please,
Be
Mr.
Long.
Postman? You don't listen to that?
I Won't Be Long is a really great song, and so is All My Loving. And then, that's about it.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even love the Rollover Beethoven, I gotta be honest. I know that's probably...
Not a big fan of it either, and I agree with Taryn that that With the Beatles needs to go next. For one, the reasons you were saying, but also the lack of originality. We talked earlier about how some of these albums were half covers. on With the Beatles, it's so apparent that they're covering things.
Yeah.
And I mean that's not to say that the covers were all bad. Roll Over Beethoven, not a fan, but like You Really Got a Hold on Me, that at least I enjoy. You know, I enjoy listening to it, and I think it's a good cover of what was already a good song. But I think the sheer number of covers on it, you know, the fact that quite literally half of the album is covers, and again, and that's not uncommon for the time, you know, and for Beatles albums, but also for albums in general at the time. There were a lot of covers being done back then, but I think Help is much more of a Beatles album.
Yeah, definitely.
Than With the Beatles.
Bobby.
I'm gonna go with the Beatles.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Great, guys, we haven't talked about a lot because you don't need to hear it all that much. All right, guys, so With the Beatles at number 10 on our list. All right, now really at this point, though, we are left down to... Because the thing is, you can almost divide the Beatles' career up into parts because really there's kind of pre-Rubber Soul and post-Rubber Soul. That's at least how a lot of critics kind of view it, because Rubber Soul was the album that came out in 1965 where there was just like a clear break, because essentially, you got to keep in mind, they also put out 5 albums of a lot of original songs about boy-girl relationships. I Want to Hold Your Hand, and like other things like that. They talk about how Nowhere Man and later Taxman were kind of the first songs they wrote that weren't about boy-girl relationships or any sort of, you know, romantic pairings or what have you. And they started getting into deeper, more significant issues. And that's why a lot of people define that as an artistic break. So that being said, we have the artistic break songs, all those albums songs, Yellow Submarine, and then we also have the quote-unquote soundtrack albums, A Hard Day's Night and Help. A Hard Day's Night, considered by many a classic, Help considered a really goofy, dumb movie that they did together with friends, still better than Magic Mystery Tour.
Yep.
So, that being said, Bill of Bill's Bonanza, that guy, that motherfucker, what was the worst episode you ever filmed of that?
Oh God.
Did you ever have a caller come in and be like, I want to hear John Lennon?
No, I never had that.
Screaming.
I think my first episodes of it were the worst, just because I tried to really plan it out too much, and I had no idea that radio was like, you had to be able to throw all your shit out the window. So I had, I would come in with these, lists of songs. I knew I had an hour so I could get this many songs in, and I had notes about like, oh, I'm gonna say this here and I'm gonna do this there.
You had a script?
Like, and not like, I had just notes about things I was gonna say. I didn't say like, now I'm going to say these words.
Yeah.
But I did have notes like, between these 2 songs I'm going to do that, and like as I got more comfortable with it, it just became a much more organic thing, and much more fun. I mean, like the best episode I ever did of it was the last one, because I was having a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, your Abbey Road.
My Abbey Road, and because that was the only one where I had absolutely nothing. No notes, nothing about any sort of Beatles occasions or anything like that. I had absolutely nothing. I just kind of went in. I decided I'm gonna do an episode. I'm just gonna pick a song, and then from there I'm gonna let it go.
Nothing but Plastic Ono the
yeah.
entire time.
I mean, and it was great, and plus I had like some friends in the studio with me, so that was pretty cool.
You were all together then.
We were all together then.
Where did you do this show?
This was in school when Evan and I were in school together.
What was the station?
It was WVKC 90.7 in Galesburg.
God,
what was the year?
That would have been 0607.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are younger than me.
Yes, I am. Well, Bobby, and dear Bobby, our dear friend, he's also a DJ, and he's actually established his own recent DJ nights that he has.
I did do a Beatles night.
He did do a Beatles night, too.
It was not well attended.
Goddamn.
You should do another. I'll bring people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, after this podcast, which will become just as... Listen, I'm not saying anything about how I think this podcast is going to do in terms of our already established filmography.
It's going to be more popular than Jesus.
It's going to be bigger than Jesus.
We're going to be bigger than Jesus.
It is. All right, cool. That being said, Bill, shut the fuck up and give us a number 9.
Okay.
Number 9?
Number
9? Number 9? Number 9?
Oh my fucking God. I hate this podcast. All right, guys.
Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'll
edit this out.
No, I know. This is tough because you were talking about like pitting masterpieces against
listen, we're doing this for arbitrary reasons. There's no need for us to rank them, but we're doing it anyway.
Well,
so
right,
and
that's the point. I am going to
controversially,
yeah,
nominate
Sgt. Pepper.
What? Garbage.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
No.
No. There's a part of me that might agree with Bill, but I really want to hear his argument on it. So, let's hear Bill.
Okay. My argument for
Bobby is
Sergeant-
smiling.
I know
in
he's
upsetness.
Bobby's about to hit me. So my argument for putting Sgt. Pepper down this far on the list is that I just don't think it's that cohesive an album. Not at all.
We need to talk about the context for this too, because especially following Rubber Soul and Revolver, many consider artistic breakthroughs, whatever. The group, again, having fulfilled their commercial obligations, they're like, what if, like, we're sick of being in this band, there's actual tension starting to form. Let's form kind of this mystery, like, alter ego band.
So, that's the thing, is that Paul McCartney wrote the title track about halfway through the sessions for this album. So that's why when you say it doesn't feel cohesive, it's because half of it was not written with this concept album.
Right, because Fixing the Hole wasn't played by Sgt. Pepper's. It's a fucking Beatles song, guys.
And so I do understand what you're saying there. It is not my favorite late stage album by any means, but when you have the opening salvo of, the theme was so it was so innovative in just a production sense. All of the audience sounds that they used, all of the different, they brought in like a hugely varied instrumentation for this track for almost the first time. And then you go into possibly the best Ringo sung song, right?
Yep.
And then Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is like inarguably like one of their biggest legacies. This is the album that sold, while they were hugely globally popular up until this point, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band sold 32 million copies worldwide.
But Fixing a Hole sucks.
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
but then also, even lesser tracks on there, like She's Leaving Home and In My Opinion, Mr. Kite, are, they're so innovative for the time. Once you get to this point in their discography, every song spawned a genre.
Yep.
That every individual like sonic decision that they make, like you hear a certain filter on a guitar noise and you're like, oh my god, there are 6 bands that sound like that all the time.
Right.
And so I don't think we can put it quite this low.
Okay.
Now, let me just say one thing, and then I want to toss to Bobby and then to Bill. The other thing I want to talk about, the whole reason we do the Chartographers in the first place is because we kind of want to rank every album. And part of the reason why we're doing it is that when we're recording this episode in 2016, we're very far removed from when these albums initially came out. And there's a lot of people that will still hold on to everything the Beatles did as being forward-thinking and progressive and innovative in a lot of ways, because it was. But at the same time, because we're doing this in 2016 and because we're horrible, opinionated people, we are going to be willing to call out, this song didn't last as well as it is. I'm fully aware of what it did contextually at the time. But when you're listening to it now, we can still call it out for, like, still not a great song.
See, and that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason I put it in that direction. What you're saying, Karen, you aren't saying anything wrong or incorrect about it. It was innovative, and it was it did a lot of different things. It may have spawned subgenres. That said, there were just not a lot of good songs on the album.
I just disagree.
I disagree.
Well, and the beauty of the Beatles is that it is so subjective. That is what is, for me, when I was kind of doing research and trying to figure out, how I was going to rank these things, because this is a fucking monumental task, guys.
Right. Yes. This is not to be taken lightly.
Part of the fun of this is that the Beatles, the Beatles are something different to everybody, and everyone has their own kind of taste about what they like in the Beatles and what they didn't like. No, because that song sucked. But everyone has their own, their own likes and their own dislikes and their own songs that they think were wonderful and their own songs that they think were terrible. And so the fact that we can debate this and that we are debating this in 2016. How many bands from the 1960s can you really debate like this?
Hoobastank?
They're not from the 1960s.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. But real quick, he's been really quiet and he had a very expressive reaction to when he said Sgt. Pepper.
Yes.
Bobby,
I have a very close relationship with this album. When I was 13 or 14, I listened to it over and over again, to which my dad said, there are some countries where you can be murdered for listening to the same album over and over again, which I think the jury is still out on that. I don't think that's true. However, I don't know. I feel like I disagree in terms of the album not being cohesive, because the theme of the album is a live show, because this was to replace their live show. And so I feel like Sgt. Pepper with a Little Help from My Friends and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds have a very like circusy feel. Mr. Kite, like they put an audience track under the whole album so that like it sounds like they're
almost live.
Yeah, so they're almost live, up to the point of, Sgt. Pepper's Part 2 and A Day in the Life. Like, I feel like all of these things make it a cohesive album. I would say more cohesive than Magical Mystery Tour. Like, I can throw it to you if if you have that opinion, that is fine, and I can't change that. However, I would say Magical Mystery Tour is less cohesive than this.
Okay. No, you're right. Magical Mystery Tour is less cohesive. I think that the songs on it stand up as a whole. Like, each individual song stands up better
Magical Mystery Tour.
On Magical Mystery Tour than on Sgt. Pepper's. But I think A Day in the Life is honestly one of the most important songs they ever recorded. It set the stage for, like, long story tracks that really, it was making sweeping societal statements, which I think this was, like, one of the earliest times they really did that.
So,
and I think that if we're talking about Sgt. Pepper's, we have to hash out Hard Day's Night first. Ooh, because okay. I really think that Help and Hard Day's Night, still as good as they are, in my opinion, are a step below Sgt. Pepper's.
I agree. I would put Help lower than Hard Day's Night, just for no other reason than the opening chord. That opening chord is the greatest chord in rock history. So, I would say Help at number 9.
That's kind of where I'm leaning too. I would lean with Help at number 9.
Billion?
You guys are not making this easy.
Listen, and here's the thing. We all have babies that are going to die along the way.
Kill your darlings.
The thing is, I can recognize when I am outvoted on something. I really can.
You're going to win other votes, Bill. I'm not worried about that.
Again, ultimately we're just ranking albums.
Right.
So, nobody's going to die at the end of this.
And you need a little help from your friends,
crossed.
but these people are not your friends.
Yeah. So I can recognize that I'm outvoted on this. I don't necessarily agree, but I can't
I know. And this
I can't
listen,
go against.
I'm willing to, just for the sake of moving things along as well. I genuinely do believe that Help and Hard Day's Night, they're very much two pieces cut from the same cloth. That kind of whole stretch of things right there. And trust me, while I do want to have an album, latter day album, just, kind of thrown in there because I do think there is a candidate, before we get rid of the pre-Rubber Soul albums, at the same time, I'm okay with having Help kind of tossed on there, because I do think, when you think about it in the long term of things, I agree with these two, it is kind of a lesser work altogether. So guys, just for the sake of it, for the sake of what we're doing right now, number 9 is Help. Now listen here, I do hear that there's a Silver Hammer's almost going to be here. His name's Maxwell. It's really bad, but he's going to start killing people. Bang Bang. Bang Bang Maxwell Silver Hammer.
I know.
Just get to your segue. Get to your segue.
He kills people.
Get to your
what
segue.
He does. If you listen to that
Finish
song.
your segue.
Anyway, so I would like before
Terrible segue.
before we break, I would like to get one other album on the list.
I mean, I think it's no question it's A Hard Day's Night. There's just such a huge songwriting and experimental break after Rubber Soul that it's no contest. A Hard Day's Night has some really classic early pop rock songs, but there's just so much meh on it.
Like what?
Like, I Should Have Known Better.
That's a great song.
I don't like it.
I'm Happy Just to Dance with You.
That's a great song.
I think that Tell Me Why is just, like, fine. I actually really like Anytime at All. I think it's pretty fun.
That's fine.
But like then I'll Cry Instead and When I Got Home again. They're just
Peanut
like,
gallery, guys.
and also this is again as maybe I'm this is the 2016 lens and I'm too PC, but You Can't Do That is kind of a fucked up song.
Wait, because it's about women.
Hang on. Is it more fucked up than Run for Your Life?
Yeah. Holy shit. Run for Your Life is messed up.
It is in fact not more fucked up than Run for Your Life. It is a precursor to Run for Your Life. These songs are about beating women when they talk to other dudes.
It's true.
And
John Lennon did a lot of that in his life.
And
So did Ringo.
So did Ringo.
And that's fucked up.
That's why he did the
And
No-No song, and that was actually court ordered by the judge.
If we're ranking them now in 2016, I don't think we can overlook that.
Okay, but
Right.
here's the thing. I do want to point out that so far we've had some post-Rubber Stool candidates thrown out there. Bobby's made it clear he's not as big a fan of Magical Mystery Tour. Bill has made it here he's got Sgt. Pepper's, which I think there's some legitimacy to that argument there. But I want to toss out my post one, and I did mention it just briefly previously. Let It Be, and I mean this truly, it's not as good as you remember it to be. And I only want to point out that first off, that is an album where there are some great songs on there. There's a lot more straight-ahead songs on there. And then there's songs that are barely even a fucking minute on there, which was fine during the White Album when you're trying to fill 4 sides of different things there. But as an overall thing, I mean, are people really going to go ahead and go ahead?
Well, I mean, sure, there are some
One After 909, that great classic.
I love that song.
That's a great song.
I love One After 909.
They originally recorded it in like 1962.
Right, but then also
Yeah.
The Long and Winding Road.
But-
Listen, I know it was number 1, but McCartney has a way
It's
for
a
override.
beautiful song.
No,
It's a great song.
No.
That is a great,
It's a great song.
No, I am adamant about
No,
that.
that is a great song. And Let It Be also, like, I think
Now
that...
let it be the song.
I think that Two of Us and Get Back are
Yep.
such perfect
Yep.
openers and
Yes,
closers.
I would agree with that entirely.
And
Actually,
they...
Two of Us was great because there was just that, even though it was recorded before Abbey Road, that sense of unity that it had, that brief momentary alliance. Like, there's contextual elements, but also just like the lyrics without even the Beatles context was
With
great.
Let It Be, I think it's awesome because it was specifically they were trying to get back to their old sound with their new improved like songwriting ability and their studio know-how. And so when you get stuff like I Me Mine, I mean, that's like up there with the best things that George ever contributed to the Beatles. I think that Dig a Pony is like a really, it's
I actually did.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really, it fits right in with their like psychedelia, the fuck are you talking about mode.
But I mean,
But
at
it's
the same,
still-
that's also one of those great songs where you realize the lyrics and it doesn't make sense, but then you hear that chorus of just all I want is you, you know, like, and,
Right.
and that's almost as what sells the song more than anything else.
And
right? Yeah.
I mean, Let It Be obviously has been way overplayed at this point. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't a great song. And I think that I've Got a Feeling is also especially in this dark period of, I mean, like,
Yeah.
by the time this album came out, Paul had already left the band. They just hadn't announced it yet. Like, so it's to hear this optimism and this cooperation from them, even at this point when they, you know, for the most part were behaving like solo artists. I think Let It Be, again, maybe not my favorite Late Phase album, but I definitely hold it to a really high regard.
Bill looks like you want
Okay.
to say.
I am actually, Evan, I'm going to come to your defense in this one.
Oh!
But here's why. 2 words. Phil Spector.
No!
Oh my god.
Alright,
Okay, wait.
Okay, let's talk about the context as to why those 2 words are so important. They
Okay.
recorded the album. Take it
Right,
from
they
there.
they recorded the album.
This
It was
documentary
produced
album.
by Phil Spector. You know, became
Well, not actually
Not
produced by Phil
originally.
No.
Spector. Right, it was produced by
Glyn
George
Johns.
Martin.
Right.
The band hated
They
each
used-
other
right.
and were like
right.
barely in the studio recording. I'll do this dub.
Right, and I think it was not. I think that sort of. I think a lot of it was very much overproduced, and I think that took it. There are a lot of great songs on there, and you know we talked about One After 909. I think that's a great song. Dig a Pony clearly is a great song. George Harrison's I Me Mine is a wonderful song. The album that should have been the Beatles' last album. We're not talking about this in terms of canon, but they released this album called Let It Be Naked. where they stripped down.
Now this was like 2002,
This
2003.
would have been it would have been late 03.
Yeah, when
And
basically
right
there
around
was this thing
Thanksgiving.
where there's a controversy that Long Story came out. The band finished it. A lot of people wasn't sure if it was like finished enough or
Right.
whatever, so they brought in Phil Spector, the amazing girl group Wall of Sound producer,
Right.
to be like, can you add some
Right.
stuff to it? And while he largely just kind of mixed and touched on some
Right.
things slightly, he also added bombastic large
Right.
string.
When Let It Be Naked came out, that was a lot of that was stripped out, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it let a lot of the songs shine as songs a lot better. One example of that for me is Across the Universe. I
Mm-hmm.
love the stripped down version on Let It Be Naked. I think it's a beautiful song. It's it's definitely a Beatles classic.
Right,
And,
yeah.
But I think that sort of bombast that Phil Spector added, or maybe that George Martin added, when he was doing his thing, I think it took away from it. And I love hearing that sort of stripped down version. The other reason I really love Let It Be Naked is because of Don't Let Me Down.
Oh,
Because they included that on there?
That was
Yeah.
put on there.
And that was
It was
one of
never.
Bobby's
It was
favorite
never. It
Beatles
was never.
songs.
An,
Yeah.
It was never an album cut
Yeah.
until then. And Maggie May on
Yeah.
the original Let It Be. I mean, that's a toss-away song, and Don't
But
Let Me Down replaced it.
I think
and I
you're
think
allowed
it's such
to,
a better song.
You're allowed to have a toss-away song if it's less than a minute long. I mean,
I agree,
Yeah.
but when you have a song that's not on an album, like of the quality of
but
Don't
they've
Let Me
done
Down,
that. They did that for their whole career. Guess what else wasn't on an album? Day Tripper,
Revolution.
I Want to
Lady
Hold Your
Madonna.
Hand, Hey Jude, Lady Madonna. I mean, some of their best songs ever aren't on albums, so I don't think you can discount this original recording just because it maybe didn't use the perfect lineup from the sessions.
Or the perfect production.
Or I actually completely disagree. I think
Okay.
that Let
Yeah.
It Be Naked made the songs much more boring.
I agree.
All right, Bobby, walk us through your Let It
right.
Be feelings.
So I spent a lot of time with Let It Be in college because I had to write a paper on it. So like
What was the class?
it was a Beatles class.
Wait, really?
The required text was the Beatles anthology book.
Well, fuck.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so like I don't know. Paul McCartney wanted to do a live album of all new material, and he couldn't get the band to quite do it because he wanted to record it in a film studio and have this documentary film crew do it at like 7 a.m. when no one wanted to do it. So the material was really bad, and they gave it to Phil Spector to like do something with, and what he put out is what we all know. And I feel like just because it is generally regarded as like less than, it's still canon, it's still really good, and like I prefer the sweeping version of the other
I
versions.
mean, I'll always prefer bombast.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you add strings and horns to something, I'm generally sold. Sure, you can overdo it, but for the most part, that only adds to the emotions that a song can deliver.
And also there was a version of the Get Back sessions that was never released, and it was by Glyn Johns, and it was really weak. And so I feel like the Phil Spector version is what we got because they couldn't do much with the material they had because no one was happy doing that. And that's why they went back to do Abbey Road the way that they did it with George Martin. But I feel like because it's sort of an underdog album, that makes me love it even more and want to, put it
Right, and I'm willing to call it
higher.
an underdog album because it's just not as solid as some other latter day efforts there. So Bill and I are very much in this line. So, and I thank you, Bill. But the real question then is, at that point, Bobby, you were number 8.
My number 8 then would be either A Hard Day's Night or Magical Mystery Tour.
Hard Day's Night.
All right. So listen here, guys. Before Bang Bang Maxwell Silverhammer comes back and attacks and kills us all.
Oh, come on.
I do want to say, let's go ahead and agree on a consensus for the end of part 1. A Hard Day's Night will be our number 8 pick, and that leaves so much more left to go. So before we head out, let's go ahead and summarize what we have in terms of our ranking of the best and worst Beatles albums. Number 13, Yellow Submarine. Number 12, Please Please Me. Number 11, Beatles for Sale. Number 10, With the Beatles. Number 9, Help. Number 8, A Hard Day's Night. And right after this, guys, we're going to record an amazing part 2 where we take care of all the rest and throw it in order. But in the meantime, let me just do one quick thing and say thank you. I want to thank all the people in the studio for being here right now. Taryn, Bill, Bobby, T's and B's all over the place. It's amazing. I thank you guys for being here. Your voices have been incredibly invaluable, and we're going to keep extracting them Ariel-like, for our next podcast, for the next one. Guys, don't worry about it. That's all I can say. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Do like us on Facebook. Rate us on iTunes, preferably well, unless you don't like that last joke I just made. Either way, it's fine. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon, okay? Don't worry, guys. With podcast magic, where no one will ever hear these words we're speaking right now ever again. So don't worry. Look at it, never happened. Everyone's really happy.